Happy Wednesday and welcome to an update episode. I'm John Lorden. Thank you so much for spending some time with me here today. Today we're going to cover updates on two cases that we've discussed previously. One very recently, that's a Searchlight case. Quite honestly, a terrifying story. And we've got some updates that I think are going to give us an idea of the direction that the investigators are looking in. And then a case cracked episode, which typically we don't have updates on, but we have been covering cases where the court proceedings are not completed yet. So we got to let you guys know how that plays out as well. Let's go ahead and get started with the first update on the Brain Scratch Searchlight episode we released just over a week and a half ago. Elnaz Hajtamiri abducted from Wasaga Beach, Ontario, Canada on January 12th, 2022. We are obviously now just over a month since the abduction has happened. Terrifying situation where three men came to the door of a family's residence that she was staying at. She was staying there as a form of protection because she had been attacked recently in the parking garage of the apartments that she was living at. And when I covered this originally, I kind of alluded to the fact that it seems like those two events would be connected. Kind of strange. We're finding trackers on her car. She's really awfully assaulted in her parking garage. And then within a matter of weeks, she's literally abducted from the home that was supposed to be kind of a safe house for this whole situation. Looks like investigators might be looking at the connections there as well. Let's go ahead and get started with the first article over at cbc.ca. We have a charge. We have an arrest, not directly connected to the abduction, but I think this is certainly an avenue of investigation that might pan out to get to those people as well. Police charge ex-boyfriend. Montreal resident Mohamed Lilo, 34 years old, was taken into custody on January 21st and charged with criminal harassment. So obviously this happened a little bit ago. We've got it happening within, a few 10 days of the actual abduction. So it seems like this was probably something that was a consideration early on, but this news wasn't released until recently. He was released on bail on January 25th and is set to appear virtually in a Collingwood, Ontario court on February 22nd. Police wouldn't confirm who the alleged victim in the case is, but multiple sources say it is 37-year-old Elnaz Hajtamiri. One of those sources is actually an attorney that is now working for the family. The family said, we need some help understanding how this investigation is going, what these things mean. They've hired an attorney. They've got some other help we'll also talk about as we roll forward here. Here is a picture of Mohamed Lilo. Sources say Lilo is the former boyfriend of Hajtamiri, who also goes by the last name Tamiri, and that the two broke up last October. So if we kind of put that into a very simple form of a time frame, we have a breakup going on in October. We have her being assaulted in the parking garage in December, and then in January, she's abducted. Could these things be connected? I mean, the time frame pretty tight around these events. We do have a little bit of time between October and the first attack in December, but we don't know if there's a pattern of escalation. Seems like there's probably some other stuff that's been going on. I'm personally wondering if the investigators are finding that as they get access to like her phone records and things like that. If they're starting to see maybe getting access to her social media, are they starting to find chains of communication where she was being terrorized in some way by Mohamed Lilo, and they said, okay, we've got enough to at least get this guy arrested. Who knows what the next step on that is? Do they put him under surveillance? They start tailing him, see where he goes to next. We've seen all kinds of different things happen in these cases. But this is all conjecture. Honestly, OPP is not being very straightforward about any of this information. Some of the best information we're getting is now coming from the family attorney, and that's really just their analysis in terms of the steps that are happening and what's going on with this case as well. The sources also say the alleged criminal harassment occurred in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. So of course, I would like to know more of a time frame. Is this something that, if they broke up in October, did this start pretty much right off the bat? And are we seeing a pattern of Was he following her to places? Was he showing up at particular locations? Was his call frequency or communication frequency increasing over a period of time? I think there's a lot of indicators like that that would help us understand if this is really all connected. As part of his bail conditions, Lilo is prohibited from being in Wasaga Beach. Can't even go to the town, apparently. A family spokesperson said that Hajtamiri's family has now hired Tom Klatt, a private investigator who previously worked with the Toronto Police Service. The family has also retained former Crown prosecutor Devin Baines to look into the case. Obviously, they're putting a team together that has very good experience, knows about cases and how they're handled in that area. I'm thankful the family has resources to do that. We don't always see families in that position. Over at BarryToday.com, New York Region assault investigation possibly tied to Wasaga abduction. So here we're starting to hear maybe there's some connectivity, and they've released photos of the two men from the attack in her garage at her apartment building. And here we have these photos. Before we go any further, and I just want to put this out there because it's something I was wondering just right off the bat seeing these photos. Any possibility that one of these guys, and for me, the way I'm looking at it, maybe the guy on the left might be Mohammed Lilo? Possibly. Hard to tell. We've got a mask. We've got the person gloved. We know that they were in a stolen vehicle. Look at how pretty well they're covered. I'm wondering, would they leave? Obviously, fingerprints out of the question. These gloves look familiar. I have a pair of, like gardening working gloves, and they're the exact same color because the front side is all rubber, and then the back has like this kind of wool material. I'm wondering if they're using something like that. But either way, not a whole lot of opportunity to leave. You're not getting any touch DNA that's left behind in that car. Head isn't covered, possibly some hair follicles that could fall, something like that. That might be traceable left in the vehicle. The vehicle was recovered. Let's go ahead and continue with the details on this article. York Regional Police investigators are asking for public assistance in a 2-month-old assault incident. Quote, this incident is believed to be connected to the ongoing investigation by the Ontario Provincial Police into the abduction of Elnaz Hajtamiri, states a news release from York Regional Police. So there we get pretty solid confirmation. We have one police force saying, yeah, we're pretty sure that they're asking us about this because of what's going on with this other investigation. Police released descriptions of the two suspects as well as surveillance images. Both suspects are male, medium build, and between 25 and 30 years old. Just curious. Yeah, we got this guy at 34. I don't think that necessarily takes him out of the range. One is 6'2" with short brown hair and was wearing a camouflage puff jacket and dark pants. The second man was about 5'10" and was wearing a dark hooded jacket. We don't really have stats on Muhammad in terms of his height in this first article. And who's to say? It might not be Muhammad that's actually in those photos that have been released. I'm certainly getting the sense with how this went down, particularly the abduction last month, that this might be someone that has resources, is paying other people to do this kind of stuff. So it might not be Muhammad in any of these instances. Could he be a driving force or a factor in these things happening to her? I think that's still a big question and certainly still on the table. The family is being very cautious with their identities, I think understandably so, but they also have been getting comments out through the media about what they're going through. Over here at globalnews.ca, we have a quote from one family member. It's impossible to describe what family is going through. It's shock, disbelief, anger, crying. What is it that a person disappears and we don't know anything? Is she alive? Is she in the country? Is she out of the country? Why do people want to hurt her in this way? I think that is the most frustrating that we're enduring right now, the family member said. I'm speaking to the people who are holding her. Please bring her home. No questions asked. So it comes down to these photos. We've got a close-up on this person here as well. And the second man sitting in the car. Police are looking to identify these two guys. And it looks like they're pursuing this in connection to her abduction as well. What does the family lawyer have to say about all this? We have to maintain the hope, of course, that Elnaz is alive. There's no reason for us not to think so. She's been abducted, and we want her to come home. And we talked about this in the last episode. I'm just going to echo it again. I mean, these are pretty great lengths that you would go to pull off an abduction, as opposed to if they wanted to end her life, it could have been very simple, very quick at the home. That's not what happened here. So it's weird to have a condition like that where you're like, wow, there's people that are going to extreme lengths, a group of people seemingly, and that is the actual same hope that you're holding on to, that she is still alive and can be brought home. But that's the reality of the situation, and very tough reality on all fronts. Of course, we're hoping for the best outcome in this, and we're going to stay on top of it as things progress. Sounds like we're going to have a court date here very soon. Is more information going to come out around that? Is the public going to help identify those two men? Of course, we've got the contact information that you need in the description box down below if either of these two men look familiar to you. So please use that, and please help this family find the answers they're looking for. Quick update over on the Case Cracked episode we did, Sophie's last cigarette. If you don't remember this case, I'll have a link to it in the description box down below. In short, Sophie went out for a cigarette, did not come back, took many, many years for the investigation to turn that big corner, and a huge thank you to Genetic Genealogy for bringing the solve in this case. Over at cbsnews.com, man found guilty 29 years after woman found dead in Alaska college dorm bathtub. It went unsolved for more than 2 decades until a DNA match for the assailant was found using Genetic Genealogy. They linked Stephen Downs of Auburn, Maine to the crime, and he was arrested in 2019. Jury members in Fairbanks deliberated 2 days before they found Downs guilty. Downs, now 47, was a freshman at the university back in 1993 and a resident of the dorm where Sergie was found dead. The technology has increasingly allowed investigators to solve cold cases. I've been trying to keep an eye on these cases because since 2018, where we started having these types of solves, I've been waiting to see what's going to happen in the courtrooms. How is this information going to hold up? Is it going to get these prosecutors what they need in terms of convictions? With the Golden State Killer, we really didn't get to that point. There was really no fight that happened around that case. Here, it looks like it went for a full court battle. We do have the jury deliberating for 2 days. Bit of a strong indicator that there was something going on in that room, some conflicts that had to be worked out about what they thought with this decision. But ultimately, it does come out in support of genetic genealogy as a tool for helping to solve these crimes. And I think just logically, if the genetic genealogy, if the science is that bulletproof essentially, or that tight, isn't it always going to lead us to information that's going to be helpful in getting these convictions? If you know you've got this man, all of a sudden, all the information that you collected in your investigative phase that lines up with Stephen Downs is now part of what you're going to be able to use in the courtroom. So I think it's really, we might see some variations on a case-by-case basis where maybe that information gets challenged in some way. I'm really curious about the Coley McCraney case that we covered on the first season of 3 Men and a Mystery, J.B. Beasley and Tracy Howlett. But in that instance, I could see a very simple defense of, well, we did have sexual contact earlier that day, and that's why you found my DNA on her body. Doesn't necessarily tie that person to the act of the killing or the time of that person's death. So I think we're going to see some variations with some of these cases in terms of how successful they might be. But thankfully, here we do have a conviction. Downs didn't testify in his trial. Sergie's brother, Alexei, listened to the verdict and described a feeling of relief that the jurors found him guilty. He said the case has taken a toll on the family over the years. Their mother passed away in 2021 after Downs had been arrested, but before the trial, quote, on special occasions, she just burst out crying for a little bit. And she'd start a prayer and start praying. I said to myself, one of these days, they'll find the guy. They will find him. Nobody can hide for so long. Downs' sentencing is planned for September. So that is the update on that case. And yeah, we're going to keep an eye on that just because I'm very curious to see how these trials progress with these genetic genealogy cases. But so far, another check in the column of it looks like a great tool, and I think it's going to be a tool used to solve a lot more cases in the future. What do you guys think? Let's talk about that in the comments down below. That's it for the updates. Please join us again on Friday for a brand new episode of Searchlight right here on the Lord and Arts channel.